Good morning, Real Writers. Welcome to another Journal with Me session. Chris here on a Sunday morning for our weekly session. If you're just joining me, I've started doing these on Sundays to keep my hand in with journaling because just life, and it frustrates me no end to carry around a notebook and only use it for like shopping lists and to-do lists and maybe jot down a sentence. That is not as a writer, that's not satisfying to me. And you don't have to be a writer to be doing these sessions with me. I just have always kept a journal, and it's just something I love to do, and I never get the time and the focus. And I find that sometimes when I do sit down, I can't figure out what I want to say, and I'm just staring at the notebook feeling frustrated. So this is an opportunity to journal on an idea that comes from one of the cards from one of my many decks, because if you're watching these and you keep watching these, you'll discover that I am really addicted to decks, card decks, and I originally started a Tarot for Writers channel, which I just posted on yesterday, June something. I don't even know what day it is anymore. It's the end of June. And I hadn't done that in 4 months because just, again, life. But much as I love tarot decks, I gravitate more toward oracle decks, and they leave more room for, in my opinion, your intuition. So I've mostly been using oracle decks. I really should change the title of the channel to Oracle for Writers, or the Writer's Oracle, or something like that. In front of you on the screen, I have 2 decks, and I wanted to do something fun today, a little less, I wanted to say symbolic, but it's not, because these cards are also highly symbolic. But I wanted to use a fun deck that I came across in my stash, the mystical Kipper deck, which is similar to the Lenormand deck, if you have that deck or you know of that deck. These are smaller cards. They're like palm-sized, and they have very symbolic, metaphorical images and lots of, in terms of the Kipper cards, lots of people in them. And they're a divination tool, and there used to be these, especially for the Lenormand decks, these were something that Madame Lenormand created, and she would go to parties, and she was very celebrated, and she would go to parties and give readings. And I'm not going to get into the history of that, because I am not an expert on that. You can look that up. Nor am I an expert on the Kipper cards, but I wanted to use them. And just to note that this card, the Kipper people in this deck are identified as gypsies, which is a term that I used from a deck a few weeks ago, the Sacred Traveler deck, oracle cards, and that word is in the book, in the deck, and so that's how the card is described. But from now on, I'm just going to change it to the Roma or Romani people, who are of Indian descent, and since the 11th century have experienced centuries of oppression, enslavement, and genocide. So, I think the word gypsy is just, it's in popular culture, and it's in such common usage that people don't think about it, but that doesn't make it right. It's a racist term, and so I will substitute. You want to be true to the deck, but decks were created in different times, and language changes over time. So I will substitute the Roma or Romani people when that word comes up. Just a note about that. The original cards came into being in 1900, but their original origin remains obscure, the little booklet says. The first hypotheses about the origin of the cards suggest that they go back to a person called Suzanne Kipper from Berlin, but another connects them with the Kipper, or in parentheses, Whipper people who traveled during the 30 Years' War, 1618 to 1648. They are a divination tool, fortune telling, as it says in this deck, and the creator kept the original imagery, even though they were from 1900, so everything reflects that time, clothing, interior design, but also language and images. And this deck is by Regula Elizabeth Feichter, if I hope I'm saying that right, and the illustrations are by Trosch, who also created the illustrations for the Mystical Lenormand deck. He painted, and I don't mean the original deck, I don't think. I have to look these up, but I'm pretty sure this is the current deck. And there was a very complicated artistic process, similar to how religious icons are painted. So just a note too here, since my background is the arts and I've worked in the arts, whenever you take a picture of a piece of artwork, please make sure to also take a picture of the card that attributes the artwork to the artist, and either post that picture or write out the name of the artist in your post if you're sharing. Otherwise, you're appropriating the work. This person created this piece of art. There's an attribution for a reason. Please make sure to include it. Which is why I always include who made the decks that I have in the description box. So what I'm going to do is show you the 5 cards I pulled one by one and tell you what they mean. And then I have another fun little deck called the Witch's Oracle, the White Witch's Oracle, that was made, that I just bought on Etsy. It has 13 cards and it's good for questions. So I'll give you 2 questions at the end and you decide what those questions are, but I will pull cards for you on those questions. You may wish to base your questions on the writing today, the journaling today, or not. It's up to you. But they're really fun, and I just love that they are cards that actually are specifically designed to answer questions, because tarot and oracle cards leave a lot of room for interpretation, and things can change over time, obviously. You are in charge of your destiny, but you can read different oracle and different tarot cards multiple ways, and so this is specifically one answer to the card that is very, very clear. So I really like that about them. So let's move these out of the way, and I will show you the first card. And what I did was I pulled 5 cards because I wanted to give you an option to build a little story. And I don't mean literally write a story, although you can use this as a writing prompt. I mean, take these cards together, either all together, or 2 cards, or 3 cards, or 4 cards, or do 2 pairs and leave out the 5th one, whatever works for you, to journal on what comes up for you. You might use them to look symbolically, metaphorically, allegorically at your own past or present or future, and just play around with them. So the first card is Rich Girl. You can see it more clearly there. Oh Lord, I have a hard time keeping these cards up. I need someone needs to invent something you can stick cards in straight up for these videos. They probably have. If they have, let me know, because I'm going to buy it. Maybe one of those. Do they make those for poker? Playing poker? I'm going to look that up. You can tell I don't play poker. Okay, so the Rich Girl card. This is a very positive card which tells you that you succeed in everything you do at the moment. It is a symbol for joy, pleasure, and well-being. It represents a young woman up to the age of 40, a lover, a daughter, a girlfriend, a daughter-in-law, colleague, or young relative. This card may also symbolize art. Here, rich does not necessarily mean that someone owns a lot of money. The person may rather possess inner wealth and treasures. This card portrays a time in which everything is working out and in which the joy of life plays the main role. If surrounded by bad cards, this card hints at family grief. So just a note about the Kipper cards. There are a lot of people in this deck, and this card, you can either interpret this card as you may if you wish, but in this deck, the lady and the gentleman are supposed to stand in for a female reader and a male reader. So, but you're welcome to interpret this as you if you wish. And also, why this mentions if surrounded by bad cards, this card hints at family grief, is because you can lay out this entire deck. There's a reading where you lay out the entire deck. There are 39 cards, I believe. 36 cards, and read the entire deck. And the placement of the cards, the story they tell along the way, where the people cards are, especially the lady and the gentleman, and what cards are next to each other, as well as what cards are behind the lady or gentleman or in front of the lady or gentleman, are important. That's a lot. You know, if you buy these cards and you want to do that, settle in, because that's a big reading, but it's fun. I've done it. It's fun. And you know, sometimes surprisingly, eerily accurate. Eerily accurate. So again, you can use this for yourself or you can use it for someone else. So the next card, is prison. So here's a bad card. However, as we know, nothing is as it seems. Everything is. This may not literally mean prison. If you are into tarot, note the similarity to the Tower. So now these cards are together. So consider that if you want to read them that way. You do not have to. So 29. This deck is so tiny. This little booklet is so tiny. Prison. The self-made trap has sprung and you're in it without knowing how to get out. It is obvious that you feel alone in a situation like this. Those two statements sum up the main interpretation of this card: to be or feel caught or trapped in loneliness. So again, it's not literally prison, it's a metaphorical. A volunteer or a voluntary retreat into isolation can also be intended. The card further tells you that something has reached an impasse and cannot evolve any further. This card also represents tall buildings like official buildings, police stations, administrative offices, companies, prisons, and big hotels. So it does represent a prison, but it doesn't mean you're going to prison, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So don't worry. Okay, we're going to move on to the third card. I love this deck so much. This card is Gloomy Thoughts. And what's on the bottom here is a seal down here, just above the word gloomy. And there is a tiny male figure at the top. So just a tad too close to the edge. Okay, so Gloomy Thoughts, card 33. This card is warning you against doing the wrong thing. Whenever possible, wait before signing a contract or giving your consent and check everything thoroughly. The card also expresses gloomy thoughts. You are mulling over a lot of things and feel discouraged and puzzled. This discontentment might even lead to depression. Always have a look at the other cards as well. They tell you whether a person or an issue are intended in this meaning. Negative thinking is also part of this card's statement. It may also announce completely unexpected news. Okay, number 4. This may be the unexpected news, a journey. Okay. I feel like I'm playing a game where any second I'm going to knock these cards over. I want to move this down because I want to leave room for the 5th card. So, a journey, card number 10. Oh my gosh. Such a tiny, tiny little booklet. You are taking a trip, going on vacation, or away for the weekend. With regard to your career, this card depicts a job that requires a lot of traveling, for example, as a sales representative, pilot, truck driver, and the like. This card may also stand for a ride on a bus, on a train, in a car, etc. It may also mean that a certain matter or concern is finally gaining momentum, is getting a move on. Further aspects of this card are wanderlust, a journey of the soul, a new orientation, or aiming for a new goal. As a trait of character, this card describes a person who wants to travel or someone who cannot settle down. Remember, these cards don't have to apply to you. As a reading, and in general terms, you can journal about this. These cards may make you think of certain people individually in a specific situation or not related at all, but you don't have to interpret this as about you. So the last card, thank goodness, is called Hope, Big Water. That's a lovely sight, inspiring. At the end of a complicated group of cards. So number 36, last card in the deck. The general statement of this card is positive. It shows an improving situation. This card represents our big dreams and hopes. Those are the wishes and dreams that are firmly established in our soul, which is also represented by this card. However, it also shows another aspect of idle pipe dreams, illusion. In this respect, the card becomes a warning card, perhaps even a warning against drugs and alcohol, since they are also a kind of illusion. This card can also stand for deceptions and excessive expectations. Fantasy, living in fantasy land. It represents spirituality and encourages you to attend to the essentials of life. Whew, so we ended on a positive note. That's great. Let me move these out of the way. So here are your cards: Rich Girl, Prison, Gloomy Thoughts, Journey, and Hope, Big Water. So again, pick however many of these that you like to look at a situation or your life in an allegorical or symbolic way, or pick a couple. These might relate to situations, individual situations, or hopes and dreams or goals, and you might attribute one thing to each card and write on each card as well. It's up to you. So, if I can find my own journal. Oh, here it is. Let's write together. So we reached our 10-minute mark. You can keep journaling if you'd like. Pause it here. And I am going to move on to choosing 2 cards for 2 questions. 1 card per question from this other deck. So let me clear these cards. Okay. So first question, I'll give you a moment to ask your question and focus on it. I will be keeping my mind blank because this is about you, not me. So think of your question. Okay, keep that in mind. All right. Yes. The answer is yes. So funny because literally for the last few days, every time I ask a question on behalf of myself or someone else, it's coming up with yes. So just in case this is not the answer that you wanted, consider what aspect of the situation or person or feeling or whatever you could say yes to or you need to say yes to in order to move forward. And that could mean just accepting the situation. It doesn't mean you have to accept anything really bad that's going on, but you might have to accept that it's going on. Okay, so second question. Give you a moment to think of your question. Okay, let's shuffle. And these are very tiny, only 13 cards, which actually makes it rather difficult to shuffle. So hopefully the card will pop out just as quickly. Okay, so the answer to the second question is go, the time is right. Go, the time is right. I want you to get to see what's in this. It looks like flowers. Hang on. Yes, it's just flowers. So there you have it, everyone. I hope these were the answers that you were looking for. If not, perhaps journal on whatever came up for you with these cards. And also I just want to say that go could mean move forward. It doesn't necessarily have to mean literally go somewhere. It just could mean take action, move forward. So that's it, everyone. Thank you for joining me, and happy writing.